Hey everyone, you're listening to the Avril Heals podcast. Actually, this is gonna be a YouTube video because it's gonna be a visual episode. I obviously just found the little soundboard and I'm gonna be really annoying with it, but I think it's gonna be really fun. But yeah, so I'm gonna get ready. As you can see, Jay is with me, and it's been a little bit of time since we did our first episode, so we thought, why not do a little update on top of the fact that it's Halloween, it's our birth month, and obviously we kill it with the makeup and stuff. So I thought it would be fun to do kind of like get ready with me slash update slash how's like the creative writing groups going and stuff like that. And yeah, so if you're interested in that, keep watching. Hey Jay, how are you?
Hi, I'm feeling pretty good. I am feeling also tired. I think Halloween weekend is exhausting, and not even because I really go out very much to any kind of parties, but just like feeling the need to go do that, even though that's not actually what I want to do. But seeing other people going to do it, I'm like, those used to be fun, but they weren't actually
Yeah.
fun. They were not fun. They were so I'm just trying to hold all of my feelings at once and still celebrate in ways that feel safe for me.
Yeah, because the unfortunate thing about Halloween is like there can be like so many things about it that you love and it doesn't eliminate like the shitty weird parts of it. Um and I know that like we both like having a reason to like get hella like fancy or like just use glitter or like have a fucking red wig on and like I love your fucking costume. Mine is going to be a little more last minute. Um so we'll see how that comes together. But I'm really excited that this year we still have a creative writing thing in like an hour. So I'm gonna try and do my makeup fast because I kind of get ready slow. So it's a good challenge for me. But I've been really enjoying it. And the thing that I thought was so great was that you were like, oh, we should probably cancel the group, right? Because like no one's gonna really watch it or whatever. Or not watch it, but want to come, and everyone probably has plans. And then actually, me and Sasha, who's like one of the group members, was like, "Oh man, I was like upset when they said like we're not gonna be meeting," and I was like, "Fine, okay, I guess I'll figure out something else to do." And everybody else was like super down also to meet up and like be dressed up and. So I'm really excited about that because it is like celebrating the fun parts of Halloween for me without like any of like the weird extra stuff.
Yeah,
So I'm excited.
that made me so happy. I didn't even realize that it was going to fall on Halloween, but someone from the group asked me if we were meeting, and I was like, "Oh, I guess we won't. Like, I'll let everybody know." But I just saw everyone's faces in the group immediately drop when I said that, and I was like, "Or we can still meet. Like, we can definitely still meet. I'll be here." And then
Right.
that everybody was like, "And we should still get dressed up, and we just come to like the creative writing group." So we're just having a spooky creative writing group session in an hour from now, which is really
I'm
exciting.
so excited. Yeah, and like that just shows also like the dynamic in the group and how people are feeling about it. And I don't know. I'm really, really, really pleased because the last time that we talked, we were kind of talking about just starting the groups. We had like some ideas of stuff that we kind of wanted to do, but we weren't exactly sure yet. And now that they've launched, like what are your feelings on them? Because you come to my crochet group. We have like a joint self-care Sunday thing, and we do the create I attend your creative writing group, and I really, really, really love it personally. So what are your kind of updates, if you will?
Absolutely. I think October has been a big month for us because this is when we have officially the majority of our services, at least for this quarter. We're trying to do things on a like quarterly basis, see what the interest from the community is, and then build things around that based on what we're also trying to do ourselves. So it's been really wonderful doing the creative writing because we've seen that group grow really fast. We originally maybe two
Okay,
separate.
hold on. Just so sorry. Hold on just 1 second. You can keep talking. I'm just gonna be muted. But hold on. Yeah, just because of the barking. But you can keep talking.
Yeah. So I would say October has been a pretty big month for us so far. We have launched a lot of our services. We started the creative writing group, as you mentioned, the crochet club, and then the self care Sundays. The creative writing group holds a very special place in my heart, being a writer myself. So it's been really wonderful to be able to bring the experience I have from studying creative writing, writing my own pieces, and then also running other creative writing groups in the past, and do that in a community space where the focus of that writing is healing. Because a lot of times when you're in creative writing groups, it's about like critique and making your work better for the world. But there's this whole other side to writing that really and exploration. So it's really, really wonderful to be in a space where the focus isn't necessarily like, how can we change this to make it better, but more so like, how can we use this as a modality of healing? And that has been really, really beautiful so far. And to see how deep we've been able to go in literally 2 weeks, like we've only had 2 sessions so far, has been so, so heartwarming and given me a lot of hope for all the services we're going to build. And then you also asked about the crochet club. That has been so fun. I have never crocheted before in my life. At the previous company we were at, I remember people talking about wanting to start a crochet club, and I had no interest because I just didn't know how to do it, and it didn't sound that interesting. But you just really sold it to me, and then I did it, and it was so fun. I was literally crocheting in a grocery store the other night with my partner. So it's
Yeah, it's like so accessible and it's so like easy. And I feel like the fact that you're like a beginner crocheter and we're still able to like, I don't know, get something from it, because there's also people in there who know how to crochet probably better than me, and they're still like interested and having fun and stuff, you know? So I love that. Um, and your creative writing group, same, you know, and I feel like there's like people just like from all different levels of like expertise and like, you know, different levels of like how much writing they actually do, what the different objectives are even in the group and stuff. And it's all just like meshing really well, because I think there's this mutual respect and mutual like, you know, understanding of like, we do want to be here and we're benefiting, and we trust, we just kind of trust the group, you know? Like there were people that popped up actually that I didn't think were going to be there, that were from my like my personal life, and then like other people that I've worked with, and like people I've known for like a decade, like Sasha popped up, and you know, she's somebody I just had no idea was going to come at all. I didn't think about it at all. And apparently when she saw it being advertised, the group, she just was like, oh my gosh, this looks really cool. Da 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 da. She's gonna sign up anyway. And then she saw that like we were behind it, and she was like, ah. So like that's why I think the little things matter so much when it comes to like work like this, because the language people use and the vibe that you're giving and like all these little things, people pay attention, and it really means a lot to them, because of course like trauma work, you know, it's going to be some traumatized people, and you know, it's not our fault, but sometimes we're just like, oh, don't like that, I can't actually deal with it. And you know, is it recording my thingy? Because I don't see this little line. Like, you see how your line thingy like goes like that?
yeah. I see,
Mine is not doing that.
I see your line moving. I don't see my line moving.
Oh, okay, perfect. Okay, cool, cool, cool. That's just me then. Okay, let me mark that down as I have to edit that out. Okay, cool.
Also,
So yeah,
is my visual like my video clear for you?
it's not for me, but if it's recording on your end, it takes it from that.
Okay,
You know
cool.
what I mean?
This is
Yeah, that's why this shit is so cool. Like, I love it.
okay, cool. But anyway,
Yeah.
we're talking about.
Because you saw the video that I did with Sasha and like that little scream. I was like, God damn, that was like, I couldn't see you like that.
Yeah, yeah. Okay,
Like,
we're talking about how the little
okay,
things matter around like how we market ourselves and everything that we're doing.
exactly. So that's just like really important, because we're looking for specific things. And of course, you know, being traumatized and stuff, that was because something didn't mesh well with what we believed, or our ethics or our boundaries or something. You know, like trauma is just, you know, kind of like a mismatching, something bad happening to you that just was not, you know, that's why some people don't get traumatized over the same things as other people. So finding a group of people who are healing, or like using this, you know, things that work for you, like that's so fucking important. And I'm just glad that like I feel like the right people have found us, because like again, like at the last company, it was like pulling teeth to try and find people who were interested, because realistically, it was very confusing who we were talking to. It was very confusing. A lot of things were just very confusing. And like, I don't know, I like hate to bring this up. Well, I don't actually. I love to bring it up. So the HIV Awareness Day, it was literally just like, ew, HIV exists and this is how you can like stay away from it. That's the awareness, you know? So it's like little things like that where like if you don't really think about it, it probably doesn't seem that bad. But then who are you talking to, you know? And that's another reason like why I try and be really thoughtful about certain things, because we don't want to alienate people and we don't want it to like, because I don't think people think that when they say stuff like that, they're they're already othering people who have HIV. They're immediately not talking to them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So what is the awareness? The awareness that there's a big scary monster out there that you need to hide from. That's not the message, you know? So like all this all the language we use, all the things we do, all the memes we post and, you know, I think are, you know, very important to like our branding and why people trust us and stuff.
Yeah.
Um
I think it's just so crucial to be as authentic as possible because we ourselves are trauma survivors. And I know that when I go to seek out care, some of the first things I look for are they queer? Are they BIPOC? Do they hold a lot of the same identities that I hold? Do they have a statement saying that they intentionally work with these communities? Because otherwise, I can't just assume that they're going to give me good care because I've already experienced it in the past that they don't. So it's really important to have that clear message so that the people who we are trying to work with are able to find us and recognize that we are intentionally creating spaces for them as people who historically have not been censored in healing spaces.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. And then even just regarding the way that like they talk about it too,
Mm-hmm.
you know, it's like do are they like just saying things like, "Oh yeah, this group, you know, needs this more," but they're just kind of doing it for optics and they're just trying to say like they seem like they care, but like you can tell, you know, there's like all these little things. So I feel like that really has been the most fulfilling part of this is being able to be as authentic as we want and like still having, you know, finding that audience, because so much of the time we're like, oh, like you're a sex worker, like hide that, or oh, like we don't need you to be so loud about gay stuff, or like, oh, we don't need to be so radical and like all this stuff. And it's really not like, I don't really think we're that radical, to be honest with you. um you know, we just have the ideas that a lot of other people have and we're not really scared to show it, because I think we're very aware of the people in our lives that feel that way. So I think we have that confidence of like there are other people that feel this way or think this way or value these things in healing spaces. So I'm like I'm just really really happy, because I think the last time we did this, it was like what, a month ago, a little over a month
I'd
ago.
say almost 2 months, I think.
2 months, yeah. Oh man, yeah. And then also shout out everyone who listens to the podcast. Please rate us 5 stars on Spotify. We just got like the ability to get rated because I put up the third episode. And we have like over 100 downloads now. So that's great. Like I'm just really really happy with the way it's coming out. And you know, even before when I was making the podcast, I'm trying to get my face whiter because it's like I'm a mime, but I'm like, I actually don't have super white makeup, I don't think. I'm gonna try and find some though. But yeah, so like with stuff like that, it's just like, sorry, I think I'm gonna have to move this.
There's someone like cutting a tree near me, which is just really great timing for this, you know?
Yeah, no, this is like when like Fiora just wanted to come inside and was like barking at me, and I was like, is it because you know I'm doing a podcast? Is that why? Is that why? Um, but yeah, so like when I first started to do the podcast, even I was kind of like nervous about centering it too much on certain things. Like it was almost like I felt like I had to kind of like not trick people, but like market it in a way of like, we're talking about mental health and all this stuff, which we are. But you know, of course, my crowd is sex workers, you know? So like the more that I'm able to now actually like see that the response is actually stronger when I'm more open about that and being like, yeah, I'm actually going to be centering sex workers specifically, and we're going to be trying to destigmatize and like all these other things. Like, it actually comes off more genuine, and people have been responding to it more, So, like, oh my God, okay, this is white powder, so I can use that.
Yeah, I'm not someone who has ever really gone too deep into marketing, but as I've started to explore different things in it, I think one of the number one rules is to just have a niche. And like, I think we know what our niche is. And I think sometimes there's a fear to be too specific because we've worked at other places where it's like, no, you have to be very general and broad. But ultimately, like, the people who are going to convert and be super into it to actually join the community are the ones that we're actually trying to be here for. So if we try and market it to everybody and then they come and they're like, oh, I'm not queer, non-binary, sex worker, person of color, any of these things, maybe this space isn't for me, then we're just wasting someone's time. So I'd rather just be real. I'd rather post the memes that we find funny, talk about our real lived experiences, and be genuine and authentic. Because I think there's also a lot of power in seeing people who are doing this work who look like us and who are us.
Yeah. No, definitely. Because, like, even again, like, there's a lot of sex workers that are part of our, target audience. But not only that, they're actively like wanting to help. You know what I mean? They don't want money for the labor they're giving. They're just like so into the fact that we're doing this, and they feel comfortable in the space, because I think it's also really hard to find sex worker friendly places that are like genuinely sex worker friendly. Without like tokenizing it or being like I don't even know how to explain the way people are when they like are pro sex work, but they're just really like I used to really very much be against like even the term like I don't know, whatever. Okay, I'm gonna do that last actually. But the term the term sex positive, because it really was just like, oh, unless you have a positive experience with sex and relationship with sex, we don't want to hear it, or if unless you like, if you hate sex work and you like, blah, 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 we don't want to hear it. And to me, that always just seems so privileged, because I'm like, okay, so like, not everybody has this experience in sex work. Like, a lot that sex trafficking exists, and I'm with it. There's so, of course, sex work should not be treated like getting sex trafficked. I completely agree, but sex trafficking is a much bigger issue than that stigma. You know what I mean? So to me, I feel like it's super privileged to be like, you know, should basically just kind of like silence people like that. And like, unfortunately, that's happened to me in some spaces too, where it's like, I'm trying to bring the reality to the situation, because a lot of like, I don't want to call anybody out specifically, but it's just like, there's a lot of times where, um, sex workers and even other people, like I've talked about how like crocheters, they want to seem so edgy, so they call themselves hookers and stuff like that. And same with even like people who knit, they call themselves, even hate to say it, but they call themselves knitters. So sometimes they'll have these groups called like with attitude. And I'm like, you know what you're doing. You know what I mean? You think it's so edgy that you don't even want to be rooted in real life. And unfortunately, because there is like the hierarchy of hoes, it's called the hierarchy. But that is like sometimes very privileged sex workers wanting to pretend that like all this other stuff doesn't exist just because they are not in it, and they don't want to talk about that, so they want to silence it. And so I used to be very, very against kind of like things that were like sex positive, because it felt fake and it felt like we weren't allowing it to happen. And then on the other end, yeah, and because of that, the empowerment that sex workers got and the acceptance, that we got was really based on glorifying it in a way that it's not real for everybody. So people will be like, yeah, get your money, get your independence, get your, that's not what it is for everybody. You know what I mean? And if it's not that, then that's okay too. So I like that our spaces are like centered for sex workers without it being like fetishizing it and being like, you go girl, like da da da, like, okay, you know what I mean? Like when your friend is like, I have to go work at Starbucks, are you like, yeah, you go girl, like you got this, like, make that coffee, like you're so empowered. And it's like, sometimes that's not what it is. And I'm not going to obviously again silence anybody who's that is their experience, because I've had a lot of different experiences on both ends. Like, as coming from someone who started in the Bay Area to someone who was able to start getting, like people who clientele that, you know, kind of treats you different because you are now a porn girl, or they treat other sex workers differently. So to kind of like have this space where we actually like know that and we kind of acknowledge it, and it's not just being like, you go girl sex workers, like it's fine, like no, we're actually like, just you can just exist here and we understand, and it's okay for you to just exist here, and we'll take the bad days that you have. And and just being around other sex workers where we're not just talking about sex work, but it's okay if you want to, and you're not going to be looked at as, in healing spaces. And when people talk about like even like the Me Too movement, a lot of sex workers were excluded by not like the official movement necessarily, but people who were in it, because there would be people who like kind of share their story, and it's like, oh, you don't match my narrative, like I was a journalist and I got Me Too'd, you were a whore, so this isn't for you. It's like that happens a lot too. So it was really important for me to have kind of like that space, because I always want that. I don't want to have to hide it, but I don't want to talk about it either. And I also, so to create that space, I think is super important for me, and it's been received really well. Shout out to Lotus Lane, who is a very established, lovely, beautiful sex worker, who actually helps. I think I don't know if she's in the union, the APAC union, or if she works with Free Speech Coalition or what. But she basically, she's very much an activist, and she shares our stuff all the time, and she follows us. So eventually I'll have her on the podcast as well. But shout out to her, you know what I mean? Like, so I just know that the responses that we're getting, and the feelings that people have when they see our stuff, not even knowing that it's me and you necessarily, and then they come and see it, and like, I really love that, because in healing spaces I just feel like it's so hard to like get it, because you can literally have like a therapist who is amazing, and then as soon as you tell them your job, they're like, well, that's why you're depressed. And it's like, babe, if you told everyone to quit your job, they would be less depressed, I promise you. But then financial depression is a thing too. So, so I'm just super glad that we have that space, especially because like, Jay, you come from like a more academic like background and stuff like that. And a lot of people kind of like want to separate themselves and be like, even within sex workers, like, they'll be like, well, I actually went to college and have a business plan, so it's not like I'm like that, and it's like, I love that you don't make it like a hierarchy thing where it's like you have to earn the respect. It's fine that you're a hoe as long as A, B, and C, Um, so it feels really, really good to have that space and to share this space and to even like be in these healing spaces and like feel like it's an asset, not like a, drawback or whatever. Um, so yeah, that was a little appreciation for you as well.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And I also just think that if there's ever a stipulation to someone receiving respect, then like you don't actually respect them. So I think that I'm really grateful that we've been able to create the space and then hold space for all of the intersectionalities of our experience. And then also acknowledge that there are some things that like we, even the two of us, can't speak to. So then going out of our way to make sure that we can get people from those communities who are interested in doing this work with us, and then co-collaborating so that we're reaching those gaps that like we don't have the capacity to reach. So I think that's really important with coalition building work, with the board that we chose, and with just making sure that we're filling a lot of those accessibility gaps, knowing that there will always be things that we'll have to be working on to improve, because it's an active process of learning and unlearning every single day.
Absolutely. And speaking on the coalition building, we have basically we have, I mean, it's I don't want to say it's not official, because I don't really know what makes it official, but it pretty much is official, but we have partnered basically with they are called the Safer alternatives through networking and education, harm reduction, and they are based in Sacramento, which is in Northern California. Sometimes people say it's the Bay, but it's not. um but that area, you know what I mean. And if you look at our Instagram, we have information, a number you can call, on how to get Narcan, how to get Suboxone, which is, you know, if you're addicted to opiates or any sort of, you know, yeah, like heroin, Suboxone. And a lot of people have like this weird thing about Suboxone because you're not quote unquote sober, you know what I mean? But the thing about heroin and opioids, it's not like cocaine, it's not like meth. It's one of those things that you can't be a heavy heroin user for 15, 20, 30 years. There's a reason why we don't really hear about that, because you die. So if you know that that's kind of the thing that is your thing, you know, you're going to use that versus choosing the drug that's going to kill you, you know. So because some people are just addicts, that's what it is. I believe it's a disease, it's a predisposition, because I've seen how it changes, you know what I mean, to different people. And so how drug use kind of changes and is different to different people. But I feel like they give not only those types of things, they give free needles as well, which I know a lot of people are like, oh my God, like you're just like enabling people. Joe Biden is just enabling people. That I don't really like Joe Biden either, but I'm really fucking glad he did those few things where people are allowed to. Because again, we can't eliminate everything. We tried prohibition, and guess what? People died because they were drinking poison on accident. You know, actually not on accident. I think the government actually started putting poison in alcohol to try and punish the people who were so bad and wanted to drink alcohol. Um, so to have these harm reduction things, it's like, you know, working in reality, you know, it's not working with this fantasy utopia that we think is going to happen. So I'm super happy to be partnering with them because they give supplies but also information on how to even use Narcan. So even if you don't use, if people around you don't use, and even if they don't use quote unquote that kind of drug, which I think everybody, you know, thinks it's like a type, like, you know, one type of user that is more, you know, stigmatized, like if you're doing crack versus if you're doing cocaine, if you're doing fentanyl versus, you know, just popping a Percocet every now and then. There's always these weird social things that come with it. So I love that they kind of bypass all of that and they're like, we don't care, we want to help and distribute this stuff for free. So I'm gonna definitely have Kristen on the podcast also so she can give me a little more information because I am not trained the same way that she is. But she is part of that organization. And I just think it's really great because that's not anything that we can do. We're not trained in that kind of background, but it is super important to us and very on brand. So we want to find other people and organizations that we trust just as much and can, you know, provide things that we didn't have the background in, you know, because we are all about like coalition building versus like being in competition. I'm not here to try and like, you know, monopolize it and be the person and be the savior, you know, like I just want to like directly help people. And as of right now, I'm feeling like a lot of people are feeling like happy and supported in what we're doing. So
And then really
um
quickly to the
yeah.
part you were talking about how during the prohibition, like how it didn't work and everything. I think of today with like, I feel like a lot of us have gotten to the point where we recognize that teaching abstinence doesn't work. So there is a lot of change happening in like education to some extent on changing that because we know that you can't just say don't have sex and then suddenly people aren't going to have sex. It's very similar with this too. It's like ultimately a lot of people's conditions aren't being met, so they are going to do these drugs whether or not you take them away from them. They'll just find another way, so they can either,
Yeah, people in jail
yeah,
make
so they can either,
alcohol. They get the fruits and they dig a hole and they put them in there until they ferment and then they drink it. They're in jail.
yeah.
They still want to do it. Oh well,
they
you know what I mean?
It's like the
Like
finding a way will happen, but they could either do it with dirty needles that then actually give them things that can cause them to die, or they can have something that is clean that will at least make sure it's reducing the harm. That's the whole point. It's harm reduction. There's already harm happening. We're working on
Exactly.
reducing it. And hopefully we can help people through all of these different things. But also everyone has a niche. So right now, their organization, what they're doing is reducing the harm in that way. So it's just like abstinence doesn't work. Just trying to take things away doesn't necessarily work. And working in harm reduction is a step toward the solutions that we're looking toward.
Yeah, and some people even think like that, going back to the abstinence thing, like that teaching kids in school about certain things is like a weird agenda of like, oh, now we're teaching our kids about anal sex and stuff. And I'm like, people in school are having sex in the butt. I know it's super uncomfortable. Like I said in the first episode, which I don't know if I should have said it about like the babies masturbating, but it's just like there's things that happen, and it's sorry, it is uncomfortable because of our society. And I don't want to think about it either. I don't want to think about any 13-year-old having anal sex. I fucking hate that. But am I going to suddenly erase the fucking fact that I know that that's a thing that's happening? No, I'm going to be very, realistic about it. I'm going to try anyway. Um, and yeah, so I think that that work is so important. Because people always will think that there's a different agenda, like, oh, we're trying to like we're trying to make them pedophiles or make it easier for pedophiles, or we're trying to make everybody like just, I guess if you're a drug addict you can just get free supplies and like, all this stuff. Meanwhile, it's like somebody in their family probably suffers from something that they can't really, you know they don't really understand because they're not giving them like these options, or not giving this type of thing a chance. Sorry, I'm trying to figure out, what does a mime even look like? Okay, I'm gonna do that. Let's do, I'm gonna go on with some more black eyeliner. But yeah, I'm super excited for that, honestly, and I'm excited for Kristen to kind of give us a little more information, because I want to do like either a podcast or a live or something, um, just to kind of answer people's questions too correctly, because if we don't know something, I'm for certainly not gonna lie and say that I do. We're gonna ask somebody who really knows. So Kristen works with, unhoused people mostly, and that's like their clientele and stuff. So even within that work, there's some people who are judgmental, and they're like, yeah, ask them how they got to this point, or like just like weird shit like that. And I'll have her talk a little bit about that as well. But I think it's really important for people to start being more realistic about how the world is. Like, clearly we see that there's an epidemic of people dying from fentanyl, and it doesn't make sense because it's not always people who use fentanyl. So you have to start thinking like, well, now what, and I think they're offering real solutions, and they're actually doing stuff. And we also talked about, one of the things that we were having challenges with was, how are we going to reach people who aren't on Instagram, because that's mainly where we do things. So Kristen was saying, maybe, for some of the groups, they can sign up, and then they have a physical location, and they can all get together and join the group like that. So you know what I mean, it like, and that's what I mean by like, therapy isn't for everybody. So if you literally like, you don't live anywhere, you're like homeless, and you kind of, I don't know, you kind of just, you still need something, but you can't afford therapy, you can't afford certain things, and you might not even want that type of help, you know what I mean, like therapy help or whatever. But you might really benefit from having a crochet group that you kind of um get along with people, and whatever, and it's like accessible. So already having the internet makes so many things accessible, and so being able to kind of reach out to people who don't have that normally, and still are able to like provide them with like hopefully something helpful is like really meaningful to me, and I would like to, keep doing that. That's one of the things I'm really proud about too. um like I love the sex worker destigmatization without the weird fetishization of it. And then, finding people who, aren't on Instagram that we could still help.
Yeah. Yeah,
I
I
don't
got a
know, something's,
notification that it said lost connection to server, but then it connected immediately after. But I heard everything you said, so I'm still
yeah.
here. um, but yeah,
I'm like really, I'm trying so hard to like do this fast, but I'm like, does this even look like a mime? Like, what do mimes look like?
I think one thing that I've also really enjoyed about the work that we're doing right now is that I know being virtual means that there are some people who may not be able to use it, and we took the steps so that people who might not have access do. And then I think one of my favorite parts of that is like seeing from the creative writing group and the crochet club that there are people who are living in different states throughout the US and maybe don't have a lot of community where they are, but they can hop on at the same time every single week, and they know that at least one person will be there every single week. So maybe they don't feel safe going to a Halloween party. They don't feel safe going out to do these other things, or they don't just know people in their town, but they know that they can come to us. And that's something that I think is really beautiful because you can join from anywhere that feels okay for you. So even if you can do it from your phone, your computer, there was one group I had done in like the previous place we were working at where someone couldn't have their camera or their audio on because they were in a room with someone else, but they had their headphones in and they were just typing in the chat, and I would read out what they were saying so that they would still hear it, and we would still engage in a conversation with them, and we just always found a way that a person could join. So I think that's really, really beautiful too, because even though what we're doing is free, there can still be those obstacles that stand in the way, and I think we're fighting really hard to like knock them down and try and get as many people who we are the right resource for in.
Yeah, and I love that, like, sometimes in the groups we'll have someone who's like walking home from the train, or like, coming home from work, or like they're just like they're broadcasting from Bushwick, and then there's people broadcasting from here, and then there's people broadcasting from, so it's like just knowing that like it takes a little extra for them to even get here, but they still want to do it is like really, really, really cool to me, and it makes me feel like really good that it can be like something that they look forward
And
to,
I want to just take a moment to talk about last
I
week's
don't know.
creative writing group too, just because it was so much joy.
Yes.
Usually, especially for the past groups I've done, I always have to have a very like lined out kind of agenda of all the things we're going to do and all the activities and stuff. But with this group, it's been really beautiful because while I'm still preparing all of those so that we always have something to do, we've really just been kind of going with the flow of whatever happens. So for the last group, it was suggested that we just kind of hold a space for people to just share pieces that they've written in the past or share a piece by somebody that they enjoy their work. And that was such really my favorite session that we've had. I mean, we've only had two, but still really incredible. My favorite out of the creative writing groups that I've done, period, because it just allowed people to go really deep in a way that still felt safe for them because they weren't necessarily writing this like super intense story in the space. They were just bringing it. And maybe they've already performed this piece before, but now they're doing it in a different environment and now they're revisiting it themselves. So we just spent the entire session hearing everybody read out pieces that they've written, and then we talked about it, and then we found that a lot of people were relating to different parts of others' experiences. So it was just really beautiful for me to be able to be a part of that and to be able to share my work and hear others' reflections on that and do it in a way that also feels comfortable. Because in the first group and even in our group last week, we made sure to go over our community agreements so that we all understand like how we want to be spoken to, how we'll be operating in the space, and just always trying to maintain psychological safety and creating brave spaces for people to be in.
Absolutely. And like I think even the people who are like they normally perform, giving them this like, I don't know, like I just feel like giving people like a stage where it's like people are listening and they want to hear it. Cuz so many people, like I remember like one of our members was like, "Oh, I just feel like it's too long." And like, like everyone's attention span, I don't know, like I have a bad attention span, so maybe other people were getting bored. We were all like, what? I was listening, like, what happens in episode 2? Like, what happens next? And so having like the right people in the group has been so amazing too, because I just feel like, there's certain people that will appreciate hearing other people's things and really resonating with it. And it was like everybody had good feedback, and everybody, like, I don't know, like there was a few things that made me cry actually. I don't remember what it was. I think it was like fucking one of somebody wrote about, something really traumatic happening, and I heard it before. The funny thing is I heard this before because I tried to do like a little, I don't know, like a little poetry slam or a little just something different on Twitter Spaces, which Twitter Spaces, it is rough on Twitter Spaces, okay? You never know what you're gonna get. It's gonna be people bragging, it's gonna be people moaning for free, it's gonna be people talking about sloppy talk. Like it's the wild, wild west, okay, in Spaces. So I was like, let's have a poetry slam, because I know some people clearly these spaces are on for hours and hours and hours. So people are craving something, right? Some sort of community. And I was like, I can't be the only one that just doesn't want to pretend to be horny all the time. So I did this thing, and like, the person read that exact poem, and I really remember it a lot. I remember it so much, but it didn't affect me the same. And I think it's because of like, these different things that happened since then. I really don't know if I'm doing a good job, but whatever. But like all these things like have affected me in such a way, and it really like actually made me think about like, okay, where was I last year when this was happening? Where was I when I first heard this? What did I think about it? What did it make me feel? Because it literally made me cry. And I think that's one of my biggest things is like, I have so much emotion. Like, I'm really emotional, but I don't know that I'm that sensitive, if that makes sense. So to be able to be in a space where I felt comfortable enough to even be vulnerable and to listen to someone be vulnerable, and it didn't make me uncomfortable, because sometimes that's how it is, but I felt safe enough to accept that, um that these are real things, and it just I don't know, brought that out in me. And again, that's like such a healing thing, but we weren't really like sitting there thinking about like, okay, how are we healing today, it's very like inadvertent, it's very comfortable, it's very I don't know, just it makes you want to take part. It feels cathartic in a really good way, and that in a way you're not dreading, like our group starts in like 15 minutes, and I'm really excited, and I'm trying to go faster. You guys see how slow I am at doing this, and I don't even know what the fuck, I don't think I don't like it.
I think also like I really appreciated how intense the group got without feeling overwhelming, because sometimes when we talk about our trauma it can definitely be really triggering and feeling like I just got to get out of here, it's too much. But I think the way that we approached it and the way that we've been building that kind of rapport with each other has really helped it, so that like we can go a little
Yeah.
deeper but it doesn't feel too intense. And that also, if somebody doesn't want to match that and someone just wants to write a story about like their pet cat, they can do that too, and it's so welcome. I think in the first group you wrote something about, or you wrote a poem in the form of soup or something like that, and it was, loved it.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know what's crazy is that it was actually really fucking dark for me. Like, I mean, it wasn't dark, but it was much sadder than like, because I didn't want to tell everybody, I was like, well, everyone seems so happy, and so I kind of like, but the words that I was writing, because I don't want to cry. I'm really gonna cry. I don't really want to cry, but it's just like, oh my god, I didn't think it was gonna make me feel like this. But the words I was writing were like some of the last words that I ever had, like conversation wise, with my friend who died. And the last time I talked to him was November 1st. So tomorrow is like a whole year. And so when I was writing it, I was like making it into soup, because it's like, haha, funny, I love soup, But like one of our last conversations were just like, you know, it's busy right now, but in the winter time, I'll be more open, and I want to go somewhere quiet with you, maybe in the mountains or something, and we can just like appreciate each other and eat soup. And that would be like this winter. And like I'm kind of here somewhere where I would love to be eating soup with him, you know. So when I was writing that, it was like very like deep to me, but I just like came off like very kind of like, it's a funny little thing, you know, it's like a little thing, but like if you look closely, like the things I was writing in cursive were just like our last like I don't know, just me saying I miss him and kind of like a letter to him in a way, and just like the things we are talking about. And so of course it made me think of soup. Like both of our favorite foods were soup all the time. So sorry, that
Course,
was
you
very
don't
embarrassing for
have
me.
to apologize. Thank
But
you so much for sharing that with me and for getting so deep. I know it can be really overwhelming. So
yeah, and it's like I don't even realize like that these things affect me sometimes in this way, because again I'm very like closed off about certain things. And so when it comes down to it, and I feel comfortable enough to cry, or I feel comfortable enough to whatever, it's like a big deal kind of, you know, like I that's very rare for me. So like that's why it's like, oh, playing my guitar and shit like that, you know, it puts me in this place where I feel vulnerable to feel my feelings, because I think by default I just don't feel my feelings. Um and I kind of just watch them. Like I, you know what I mean? Like even finding out that when he died, and finding out when Exene died and all this stuff, it was like I was crying because I knew it happened, but I couldn't process it. And so like having these groups where it's not, oh, this is a trauma, this is a grief group, this is a blah blah blah, we're all going to talk about this sad stuff. It feels so much more like this natural, you know, like not a sleepover, but like, you know, you're with your friends because you want to be with them, you want to talk to them. It's not like court ordered rehab or like some shit that you have to do because you're in grief counseling now and stuff. And I think that's why I value it so much.
yeah,
Okay, this is like pretty white, right? Okay. I didn't want to do like all the way white, but like, but you know, so it really felt like, I don't know, like I was, you know, and at the time I just didn't feel comfortable because I, you know, it was the first time and everything. But even with the second meeting of the creative writing group, it was very like we had new people and they felt comfortable, you know, because we already had like this connection. I was excited to see, you know, the other group members. I was excited to kind of like hear their stuff, because um I read something of my sister's because I was just super proud that, you know, she got published and everything in this magazine. But
yeah,
it genuinely felt exciting to hear like these other people's stories, you know. And like I said, it hit me different when I heard my friend's thing, because I think she just wrote something really like personal about her experiences in her family, and you know, people dying and things like that. And it just, you know, put me in that kind of state of mind of like, damn, like I'm really actually sad. And it sucks because you don't want to feel that, because you're like, damn, sadness is bad. But then it's like, okay, but you are sad. So you need to feel it. So if I don't feel it, I don't heal. So the fact that it let me even feel it in a comfortable way, I feel like was way more healing than some really, really targeted, really scary, abrasive things, which, you know, help in other ways. And I know that some things are just so intense that you need that. But I don't I'm sorry, but if it's all like, you know, if it's all or nothing, I'm gonna choose nothing. So to have that, you know, option of being like, wow, I'm actually doing this like hobby group that I really like, where I'm learning skills and I'm like doing fun things, is just really, really important. And you know, I'm talking about how thankful I am for everybody else showing up and stuff, but I'm like, I'm so thankful for myself. Like I'm so thankful that it's, you know, like I'm happy that it's here also just for me too, because I'm like, I would be lying if I said this wasn't part of my own healing, you know. So I don't know, I definitely I really appreciate that
and I
group
love
so
that you
much.
brought up of
And
like. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm definitely gonna keep going.
I was saying that I
No,
love what you
go
brought
ahead.
up of the part around how it's not necessarily like we're going through every single part of our traumas and like talking about it, because that's really intense. And for some people, that is not the right way for them to heal. Like, yes, sometimes we do have to learn how to feel our feelings,
No.
but other times they are too intense for us to handle on our own. And sometimes it's not even about like feeling our
Yep.
feelings, but it's about learning how to even react. Is the way that we've learned to react to
Move on.
things have
Yeah.
happened through these patterns of abuse that we've experienced throughout our lives. So it's like learning emotional regulation, learning like all of these different things for ourselves, and spending all of this time just revisiting the same traumatic thing can be really overwhelming. So in this space, people are more than welcome to talk about things that have
Yeah.
happened to them, and also we're thinking about the future too, and we're thinking about our present selves, and we're thinking about healing. So it's not a focus necessarily grief or trauma or any of these other things. Those are all a part of the experience, but we look at everything in a very holistic way. So that's the approach that we always bring. That's why we have like a creative arts approach to what we do. That's why we also do the crochet club. Next quarter, I would really love to host like an art healing group too, because I think using art is a really helpful medium for people because there are some things that we just don't have the
Oh
words to
hell yeah.
express. Language was created by human beings, so it cannot fully encapsulate all of the emotions we experience. But when you do something artistically, sometimes you can express an emotion on a page in a way that words can't. And sometimes it feels safer to do it that way than it does to actually speak about it. So, through all of the different modalities that we use as a form of healing, we are exploring it in different ways rather than the Western approach of psychology that was created by white men, you know?
Yeah, and especially I feel like I fucked up my makeup so bad. It's okay though. I don't care. Um I don't know how to fix it. um but yeah, so no, I feel you. And the thing is it's like okay, so like DBT helped me a lot because I have BPD. So it's not about um necessarily going into all the things. It's more about changing how you react to certain things and changing almost like your worldview in a way. And for some people that actually isn't what they need. They need to talk through stuff, and that's why like CBT sometimes is better for people and stuff. Like for me, I know why I need certain I know why I need this, but for other people that shit's traumatizing, you know what I mean? So um and there's also certain things that I don't need DBT for. Like if I had if there's certain like things that have happened to me that if I had to only use DBT to do it, I would fucking go crazy because there's nothing about it that would actually make me feel better. I don't know, I just don't. There's no liquid eyeliner, that's why. Okay, it's fine. We're just gonna move on. But yeah, so I think it's really important to like give people that space as well because we don't get traumatized in the same ways, you know what I mean? So why would we then heal in the same ways, you know? And I think that's really important too because we just process our feelings so different. And I think just offering more options, because it's not even like we're saying, oh, we're the only right way, we're the best or anything. It's just saying that there are other people that are just like us, and we happen to know that this is how we feel about this, and this is what helps us with this. And I think that's kind of what our goal is at the end of the day, is to like find other people who are benefiting from the same types of help. I don't want to say help, but the same type of community. Because over and over, even when I'm not trying to just get talking points for Avril Heals, I'll just ask, and people will always be like, yeah, the community was what made it the difference. The community is what blah 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 blah. And I can't argue with that. Yeah, our group does start in like 5-ish minutes though. If you want
Yeah.
to, I don't know,
Maybe
should
what's
we wrap it up?
one thing you're looking forward to between this podcast and the next time we do one of these for us to do Avril Heals?
I'm really looking forward to um just seeing how I love seeing how crochet has been like making people feel like accomplished. And I think that's part of the things too, because like when I was looking it up, it was like, yeah, crochet can be so good for you because it gives you this feeling of productivity. It gives you this feeling of um, that you can, that accomplishment once you do finish a little thing, so I'm just excited to see, because I also like want to turn it into the Hoshe group, where we're make like really cute slutty like thongs and stuff. Obviously you don't have to, we could just make chains and stuff, but I just, the energy that I'm getting is that everybody wants to like make some cute like little bikini or some cute little, something like that. So I'm just excited to see that. I'm excited to see what other things happen, because we also did just have this zine workshop that we announced, and we're super excited because a lot of people have already signed up. And again, the person who's leading it is a sex worker. And this is just something that has nothing to do with sex work. But, you feel comfortable enough to work with us and, you know, um, I don't know, just exist and be and share your skills. And, I'm just really, really happy about that. Like, I can't stress enough how much it means to me to have a space that is for sex workers, that isn't just weird, because I don't know. I don't want to sound like, like not appreciative of like when people try and do stuff for us or whatever. But sometimes it's just like, did that help? I don't know. So yeah, I'm excited to see kind of just like that. I feel like we have such a good group of people who are like very into just, I don't know. Just we have such a good group that I feel like is so accepting and inclusive of everybody. And
I think the thing
yeah.
I'm
What about
most
you?
excited for is the comedy fundraiser that we're doing.
Yes, we didn't even talk about that. Oh, we've been doing
I'm
so
just so
much.
excited to
Wow, I'm
one,
so
go
proud
to a
of
comedy
us.
show, two, to be in person, three, to feel community in that way,
Yes.
four, to be able to talk about our experience in that space. And
Oh, and I'm gonna. So if you want to hear about some shit, I already started writing it, and it's been making
so
me
yeah,
laugh
I'm
my fucking
really
ass
looking
off.
forward to
So
that show. I'm also flying back to New
you
York
know,
for it, so I have a lot of family friends there that I'm going to see, and I'm so
yeah.
grateful that this organization we've created, that Exene brought us together, and that I will be back in New York for that experience and to be able to do this in community.
Yeah, and then we're gonna do some really dope podcast as well. And I want to just also talk about like how great it is to have this experience to do, because we're able to concentrate on sex education and educating people through, like, we're gonna have sex educator on there, we're gonna have other experts and things like that, but we're not only gonna have them, we're gonna have people who are experts of their own experience as well. So I think that's important, because to just believe statistics because this study, published it or something, but it's like, okay, but who are those studies based on, right? Who makes up those statistics? It's not always going to be in this politically correct, scientific, academic kind of thing. And so I really want to showcase that, because I think we're very quick to see things from where we are and what we think is politically correct and not problematic and stuff. But it's like you talk to like trans people from the generation before us, they have no issue with the word transsexual. It's not wrong if somebody doesn't feel like that is their label now, but it's also like, different things are because of different backgrounds, different times, different things. And that's not to excuse shitty behavior at all, but it's also one of those things, like, if you are such an advocate for houseless people or people of color, but you can't connect with them and you don't understand when the way that like they feel, and obviously not, it's not a monolithic thing, but like, I think that's why it's super important also to highlight people who maybe they don't have college degrees, maybe they don't really, but they make up that statistic and the things that we're talking about and that we study and that we hold to such high regard. So I think it's a great opportunity that we're able to like bring on this mixture of like just people who have different backgrounds and stuff too, and I'm really, really excited about that. Because between you and me, Jay, I feel like our network is popping. We have so many great people who just do such great things, and I'm so happy to highlight them and like have them even work with us. I feel
Well, our
super
group is
lucky.
starting in 1 minute, so I'm gonna hop off. Thank you so much for having.
Whoop. I'll see you in 1 second. All right. Bye. Thank you for listening.